welcome to round 2 of the Gran Turismo World Series. We are still here in Tokyo. We're going to be back in December, of course, for the finals. So, you know, if you ever needed a reason to go to Tokyo, this is exactly it. We thought we'd take a little break at the Sensoji Temple with Masa, a wonderful rickshaw driver, sweating through it. You know, for like a quiet moment of calm, you know, to answer the big questions. You know, like, what's the meaning of life? What am I having for lunch? Will Takuma Miyazono beat the Spanish 1-2 of Paul Urra and Jose Serrano? These are the big questions. Let's find out. Should we go, Master? We'll find out.
Let's go.
Let's go. Round 2. Off we go. Yeah, no, but we actually have to go or we'll be late. Come on. This is exactly the same as Gran Turismo.
What a sensational introduction. Welcome along to the GT World Series in 2026. It's time for Nations Cup action to begin. We kicked things off for round 1 in Milan back in May. We head to Tokyo here for round 2.
It's that easy. $1 million credits. Who wants to turn that down as well? And of course, in addition to the 1 million credits as well, a couple of bonus cards up for offer as well as part of our campaign. All you've got to do is watch along on the broadcast. You can see in the top right-hand corner there as well. Nice and easy to get involved there. And here are the cards you'll be playing for as well. A lovely FD1 Vision GT or a stealth version of the 787B. That looks nice and black.
Certainly, I always love the stealth cars on Gran Turismo, and this is no exception. Well, that's all you're going to do is predict the winner. Easier said than done, however.
Hello. Hello. Hi, yes, we are still here at PDI today. Masa's amazing. I'm going to try and get him to come to the finals in Tokyo because I think he'd just be a brilliant addition to the Gran Turismo family, frankly. Now, as we're still here at PDI, I thought, you know, I would just talk to just any old random employee that I could find. Hello, sir. Are you a fan of Gran Turismo?
Yamauchi-san says that he's a huge fan. He has been for 30 years.
Okay, so you are a fan, I hope. Yamauchi-san, what is your favourite thing about working at PDI? What's the best
there's no
thing?
other company around where this many interesting people are working together, so every day is fun.
I didn't know you were fluent, Tom.
There's many things you don't know about me, Jimmy. Fluency in Japanese, apparently, is one of them. Who'd have thought it?
Fantastic experience.
I think I agree. Do you agree?
Lovely to hear from Yamauchi-san.
Yeah.
Thank you to Jules and her vast array of big ties there on the ground as well.
So we've got so much incredible racing still to come, but as earlier I was talking about, I think this is one of the coolest offices I've ever been in, and everyone here seems to agree, so they gave some of the competitors a tour. Let's take a look.
Well, it's time then to meet our 12 drivers who will be taken to the stage in the Nations Cup. First up, we meet Adriano Carrazza, the Brazilian driver, a stalwart of the GT World Series. Been here for many, many years. Qualified first in the online regions to get himself into the championship for 2026. Guy Barbara as well. Let's see what the Australian is going to be able to do. Difficult time for him last time out when we went to Milan, finished P11, no points on the board for him so far. Samuel Moreno, hero to zero sort of stuff, won his first ever race, ended up in the gravel trap though in the grand final. He'll be hoping for better fortunes here tonight. And then next up we meet Valerio Gallo, the Italian who broke so many hearts on the home ground in Italy, ended up in the gravel in the final stages of the race. Ultimately P9 was all he could encourage for there, but he'll be hoping for, again, better fortunes here tonight. Lucas Bonelli, the second of our Brazilian drivers, makes his way on to the stage as well. In the Central and South America region is, of course, where he qualified from. 3 GT World Series wins to his name. Sam Cardinal, next up, the Canadian driver. Sam, just 19 years of age, one GT event World Series win in 2025 as well. Next up, we meet Ryota Kokuben, Japanese driver making his way on to the stage. The first of our point scorers from Milan. And then next up is Kylian Drumont. Kyle Brun, first of all. Kyle Brun, the Dutchman, making his way on to the stage here. They do indeed. Here is Kylian Drumont next up, who's, I think, going to be giving it large. No doubt about it for young Kylian. I say young Kylian, he's been around for a good few years, and he's also a former champion in the Manufacturers' Cup as well. Next up, we meet Takuma Miyazono, a man who needs no introduction. He's a four-time champion in the GT World Series, including most recently in the Nations Cup back in 2024. Then we meet Jose Serrano, the reigning Nations Cup champion from 2025. Finished P2 on the road, though, last time out in Milan. And that was to his compatriot, Pol Urra, the 21-year-old, also from Spain. Won the Nations Cup when it was a team event back in 2023. Leads the point standings as we head forwards, though, into the second round of the season. Well, those are your 12 drivers then making their way onto the stage. I've got to say, Jimmy, if it's anything like what we had in Milan back in May, I think we're in for a bit of a thriller.
Yeah, we always say this about nations, don't we? Just the level of competition is so high now. Any single driver in this grid is capable of winning this race, and often have done in the past. Of course, Barrichello, past champion, Miyazono, past champion, well, multiple times, and now current NLS driver as well. Pol Urra, Serrano, all incredibly fast drivers, so it's going to be a very competitive one, this one.
Well, now then, time for the national anthem of our host nation here in Japan. Well, the national anthem of Japan plays out then here in Tokyo for round 2 of the GT World Series in 2026. Let's remind you of the competition format, though, for this season. 8 countries with 12 drivers competing across all 4 rounds of the championship this year. They were selected from the online qualifiers, the total points rankings, and then, of course, this is how it works out at our live events. We have a qualifying, which is a one-lap attack, which determines the sprint race grid. Then we have the sprint race, which determines the final race grid. And, of course, the grand final is where the points are awarded for our top 6 drivers only. So an opportunity for some to either extend their advantage in the points or for others to get their names off the bottom of the order.
So TLDR, be fast and get yourself up the sharp end, because it all matters towards that grand final. And all those points, of course, going towards the world final later on this year at the start of December. So all to play for.
Let's hear then from Kylian Drumont.
I'm here with Kylian Drumont, who is on pole. Just give him a big round of applause for accomplishing that. Yes. Woo! Woo! It's important in life to take every opportunity to get applause for anything, really. Obviously, you did, great in Milan. Like, how confident do you feel coming into this round?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. I'm more confident than Milan. So yeah, I will push for be a good result, of course. So now is the points race. I'm pretty confident. And then I need to keep the concentrations until the end.
I mean, you've been with us for a little while now. How have you seen sort of the competition? Is it getting harder every single round?
Yeah, that's why it's pretty complicated to be consistent all of the year. So you need to stay on the game like every day and practicing too much. So yeah, this is most important, I think.
And obviously, you know, you've got Jose, you've got Paul, you've got Takuma, who, you know, sort of relentless. What's going to be your strategy? How are you going to knock them off the top spots?
Yeah,
Don't listen. Cover your ears.
yeah. No, the most important is to be really happy at the end of the race. So yeah, the target is to get out the Spanish guys. Nah, I'm joking. That's he's winning everything. So I hope some new guys can be on the top. So yeah, let's say the race now.
Well, good luck. Good luck to all of you. Let's give them a big round of applause. That's our Nations Cup competitors. Yeah. And right now, we got a little bit of information about a Singapore time trial. Let's find out.
The Singapore time trial then is going to be starting in game in Gran Turismo 7 on the 21st of August and will run for 2 weeks until the 4th of September. Participants from Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Thailand, South Korea, Malaysia and Indonesia are eligible to take part. It will result in competitors from Singapore from 2 events plus 4 from the time trial as well will be a part of it. And don't forget, of course, tickets are on sale now for our event on the 3rd of October. Well, this is how action looked when we kicked things off in Milan back in May. Samuel Moreno, the debutant, started it on pole position, followed by Pol Urra. We were at Monza in the Red Bull X 2019s, and we saw Valerio Gallo coming through like a storm to the delight of the home crowd in the opening stages. He was up through and into 3rd place at this point.
Yeah, these cars always produce amazing racing there. Milan gets it slightly wrong. Serrano takes full advantage going down to the first Lesmo. Very strong showing from all the Spanish drivers, and we thought Moreno was going to win it until this moment. Just gets a wheel on the grass in the braking zone for the Parabolica. Round he goes and down the order.
Yeah, disappointment there for him. We saw Jose Serrano coming through as well on the soft tyres in the final 10 laps of the race. Then he got the better of Kai de Bruyne as well after a later pit stop for Serrano left him in with a really good position. De Bruyne then toppled down the order as Gallo went through for the final podium place, but he then came under pressure from Takuma Miyazono as they started squabbling. Ultimately though, for Gallo, he got onto the curb on the exit of the Della Roggia, ended up in the barrier. Disappointment for the Italian driver in front of his home crowd as Pol Urra stormed to the checkered flag to take the win and 6 crucial points in the opening round of the GT World Series in the Nations Cup, followed by Serrano and followed by Takuma Miyazono. Over though to round 2 here in Tokyo, Deep Forest Raceway, qualifying time trial in the Red Bull X 2019s. A 1-lap time attack is what these drivers had to contend with earlier on today, and this is of course what determines the grid for the grand final. It's the Deep Forest Raceway though in reverse, our first time ever using this as part of a World Series event.
Yeah, and that first, or what was usually the last corner, becomes the first corner now. Very fast hairpin, so big stop there, of course. Lots of aero load in these Red Bull X 2019, so you can really slow the car down heavy on the brakes. But anyway, we're moving now into the highlights of qualifying. Moreno there setting the early pace in the Red Bull X 2019. Here's Valerio Gallo, someone who's been very good in these cars over the course of his career, and again showing that in spades with a 107.4, putting him to the top of the field provisionally.
Yeah, this is Kylian Drumont, the Frenchman then, who was out on track. Drumont, who is sitting in 4th in the standings going into this one, was looking pretty handy out there. He knows how to pilot these Red Bull X 2019 machines, and you can see he was up on Valerio Gallo's initial pole position time with only a handful of drivers left to run at this stage in the session. Going through the final series of turns, and you can see those sweeping corners. Here's the walls greeting the drivers who get it wrong on the outside, especially those sausage curbs on the inside. Bit of a snap of oversteer though. It's so tricky to just juxtapose and balance the limit of grip and adhesion here, all in equal measure. Ultimately though, he would be able to do it and take pole by less than 1/10 of a second provisionally. Pol Urra, the man who sits top of the standings, only 8th fastest ahead of the lineup for the sprint race, meaning he's got a fair bit of work to do.
Yeah, and here is that lineup there, all our drivers who will be taking part in this second round here in Tokyo. Yeah, Pol Urra, I mean, you would expect a bit better from him there really, especially after the highs of Milan, but we've seen this from Pol, not the most consistent driver, very, very fast on this day, but not always able to deliver when it matters.
It's going to be an interesting one, this in particular, because we turn everything completely on its head for the sprint race as well. Gone are the Red Bull X 2019.
Get him out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And gone is Deep Forest Raceway, for the time being, at least, because we move over to Suzuka and we move over to production cars for this one as well. So that's going to be hugely exciting. A reminder before we get there, though, of the time trial results from qualifying. So Drummond it is that will line up on pole for the sprint ahead of Gallo. Then it's Serrano, Cockburn, Moreno, the rookie. Another strong showing for him ahead of Guy Barbara, who really got it together ahead of Kai de Bruyne. Then it's Pol Urra, the points leader, ahead of Takuma Miyazono, Sam Cardinal, and then the two Brazilians of Benelli and Carazza completing the 12-driver strong field. Only 0.4 of a second there separating 12 drivers. How close do you want it?
Yeah, I mean, that's just how competitive it is here at these events. You make one small mistake, you're at the back of the field as well. Now, of course, having a good lap time here is good for your position in the sprint race, but it also determines which cars you get to pick for the sprint race as well.
Right then, let's get ready to go for the sprint race. 8 laps of action to determine the grid for the grand final of the Nations Cup. And here is how the field is going to look as they go down in towards that first corner. It was a cracking lap in the qualifying session for Kylian Drumont, and as such, the Frenchman lines up at the head of the field in the Honda NSX, followed by another Honda, Valerio Gallo in the S2000, Jose Serrano, hedge row 2 in the Nissan Skyline R34, and then it's Ryota Cockburn in the Ford GT. Samuel Moreno is in the Lambo Diablo. And then next up it is Guy Barbara in 6th place, popping up the headlights in his Ferrari F40. Kai de Bruyne will pilot the Mazda RX-7. Hope the Apex Seals can hold along. And then it's Pol Urra in the Porsche 911 996. Kazunori Yamauchi's actual car, that, believe it or not. Miyazono lines up inside the top 10, ahead of Sam Cardinal in the R32 Skyline. Lucas Benelli in the Subaru Impreza 22B. And Adriano Carazza in the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo from 1999, the Tommy Mäkinen edition car, of course, one of the most famous machines as well. So a plethora of different machinery up and down the grid, and that's what I love about these races here, Jimmy, is where else would you get this sort of machinery racing against one another?
Yeah, I say it often, but this is just prime Gran Turismo. This is exactly what I remember playing it growing up. It's just the variance of cars, and they're all racing together, and there's something magical about it, especially seeing at these events as well. So Drumont leads the field, all Honda front row, Drumont and Gallo there in the S2000. You couldn't have two more different cars, to be honest. One's a V6 mid-engine, one's a straight 4.2-litre front engine. So we'll see how they get on here as Drumont leads us down to T1. And getting through there in one piece can be super important.
Absolutely. Well, 8 laps to go then to determine the grid for the grand final of the Nations Cup then here. So it's Drumont on pole position, followed by Valerio Gallo, then Jose Serrano in that Nissan Skyline R34 GTR with Ryota Cockburn in the Ferrari F40 behind. Right then, let's go green and go racing as Drumont heads the field in towards that first turn. Now, this is going to be interesting to see who will be able to get their braking points right, because it's quite a tight and nadgery first corner, decreasing radius as they come down the hill. And will anybody be able to make any moves in the opening stage? Oh, there's already been a hip and shoulder. Yeah, you've got Cockburn going into the back there of Kai de Bruyne. And Benelli, I think, also involved. In fact, it's Guy Barbara, isn't it, as well, who's involved in the mix there. So I think Guy Barbara's gone right to the back of the field, and de Bruyne topples his way down into 10th position.
And Guy Barbara is probably the most consistent driver to get shoved off at T1, I think, in these events. Already down from 6th to 12th. He won't be happy with that, and I'm not always too surprised. But Drumont currently leading through the S's in the NSX. Behind, it seems that Cockburn and Moreno close right up on Serrano there in the R34 GTR. By comparison, the R34, quite a big car to the cars around it there. And the Ford GT, another Kazunori Yamauchi car as well.
Oh, see how sideways Miyazono was through the first digger there. Got it properly onto the curb and just about managed to gather it up. I tell you what's going to be interesting here, Jimmy, is obviously you've got a mixture of different machinery, but also, as you see a move being made there with the Lamborghini Diablo on the inside, a bit of contact with Ryota Cockburn and Sam Moreno, is that you've got different drivetrains in this. You've got front engine, rear wheel drive, you've got a bit of mid-engine in there, you've got a four-wheel drive car with the Nissan GTRs and the Skylines in the mix there as well. So it's a case of probably different cars are going to be stronger at different points throughout this lap.
One amazing thing about these old GTRs, I'm not so much sure about the R34, but the R32 has that the variable torque on the front wheels, which is basically managed by a G-sensor in the car. So if the car it's a mechanical G-sensor, goes, oh, is my car getting out of shape here? I'm going to apply power to those front wheels. So it's rear-wheel drive, then four-wheel drive, which is super amazing. And of course, as a driving experience as well, this is quite unique in how it handles, not always in the good way.
So through towards the end of the first lap, Dumont has done exactly what he needed to do, and that's lead from the front and build out actually an advantage over Valerio Gallo and try to get himself out of slipstream range. 1.1 seconds, 1.2 seconds. He's about on the cusp of it. So we'll see whether that gap decreases to himself and Valerio Gallo. But you can see a real train of cars forming behind the Italian who sits in second at the moment. Serrano, Cockburn, Moreno, Pol Urra all in the mix there. Dumont in that Honda NSX using the sweet handling of that machine to his full advantage and just trying to clear off into the distance, not worry about anything happening behind.
Yeah, of course, the NSX first appearing as basically a Ferrari killer back in the day, and it was that. Incredibly fast, less power, better handling. And of course the iterations ever since into its newer models in recent years have been always known for that, lightweight and agile. And it's, you're seeing that right here, pulling away at the front. The S2000 just about hanging on to second there, but Moreno's basically pushing this little bunch of cars along right now. Serrano being the cork in the bottle in that R34, I think.
Yeah, I think we're going to see Moreno sending one through on the inside before too long on road to Cockburn. Had a half look there into the Degner, but couldn't make anything stick, but certainly looks to be quicker than the Japanese driver in the Ford GT of Cockburn, who sits in fourth place, maybe in towards the hairpin. There could be a bit of a lunge through on the inside. The problem is, especially in these cars, when they move around so much, you've got to be very committed. Has a look on the inside once again. He did this last time around, sort of forces the door open there on Cockburn, makes his way through on the Ford GT to go through for fourth place here, but they run side by side through the right-hander. Moreno threw it in front, and now it's inviting Pol Urra to the party as well. He might look at trying to launch something into the spoon curve, and it forces Cockburn to go defensive.
It looked like a fair move for me. It was a little bit aggressive, but that's racing, you know. Here comes Urra trying to do the same thing now. Cockburn is going to ride the curb on the outside, get a better exit on board now with Pol Urra in the 996 and on 11 in the slipstream. This is that GT in front has just a bit more grunt, as does the Diablo, but as is usual with Porsches, they're a little bit quicker in the corners. So we'll see if Urra closes back up again. Oh, and meanwhile there seems to be a change for second place. Valerio Gallo, they're losing out to Serrano. So Serrano in the R34 GTR making a move. There it is, past the yellow S2000 of Valerio Gallo. Seems to be falling back a little bit now. That initial pace of Dumont, he can't seem to match it.
Yeah, impressive stuff there for Jose Serrano to get the move done quite nicely on Valerio Gallo, move his way through into second place and again secure that good grid spot for the grand final. Pol Urra, who sits in, what's he now at the moment, still in sixth place. He's made a couple of positions up from where he started, but certainly not making the impact that he'll have been hoping to do, and subsequently giving himself a fair bit of work to do, let's be honest, going into that grand final. A reminder that Urra is the points leader. The man who sits second in the standings is the man who's second in this race and would therefore be lining up second on the grid for the grand final of Jose Serrano. Let's have another look at Moreno versus Cockburn.
Let's have a look to see if it's on or not. Moreno's there. I think it's all right. I think Cockburn left the door open, Moreno put the car in, and that's it, sorted out. I mean, if he had maybe turned in, you could argue that would be unlawful contact from Moreno, but that was fine for me. Nothing wrong there. But someone else to mention, by the way, is Lucas Bonelli, up 4 places right now in the Impreza, the 22B. So he's making his way up the field there, Bonelli. Obviously, the Brazilian drivers kind of always the bridesmaids, aren't they? They never quite manage to break through into the top few positions. But there's always ridiculous speed there. Let's talk of speed. We see Moreno there driving right into the back of Gallo there. I mean,
that's a bit less robust, or a bit less odd, really, I should say.
Yeah, I mean,
robust.
I always say this: you can't just drive through people. It doesn't matter if you're quicker on the corner exit than them. You can't just go drive into the back of them, because that's how, one, you damage your car in real life, and two, how you tend to pick up some penalties. But Moreno there showing he's definitely got his elbows out, and I mean, he's got the pace. No doubt. I think if he was to get through, he'd be right up to the back of Serrano straight away. But that's not racing. Gallo, of course, trying to keep him there for as long as possible.
Yeah, Gallo struggling with that Honda S2000 at the moment, isn't it? All the power in that car is right up the top end of the rev range. It revs up to over 9,000 RPM at those machines, and they're fantastic cars when they're on song, but you have to almost sort of gear it down, really. So what I mean by that is Moreno goes off onto the grass on the exit of 130R. That might open the door here for Cockburn as they come through into the Casio triangle. I think the Spaniards just about got it covered off, but that's as close to a mistake as you want to make, because you've got 2 drivers waiting in tow behind, ready to try and pounce. And again, Moreno's still vulnerable here to the advances of Cockburn. Out of the final turn they go, and Urra is inviting himself to the party. Moreno knows that goes for a defensive line down to turn 1, but I think Cockburn's going to have the overspeed to try and sweep around the outside, or is he? No, that Lamborghini still pretty handy in a straight line, but he runs it a bit deep with that shallower line into the first corner. Cockburn goes through, Urra's now on his inside, and Moreno goes from 4th down to 6th in the space of 1 corner.
Just not handling that pressure very well as Moreno. We saw it as well in the last round of Milan. That had the potential to win a race and then went off on his own. It It's what happens at these events. It's very different from driving sort of in your room, in your office, wherever you do so, and the whole vibe of it can really change how things feel. So here's a replay of what happened to Moreno, just a little bit too early, turned in too early there, gave himself a bigger exit, got onto the grass there, just about gathered it back up again. But then of course his tyres are going to be dirty. He's coming into the chicane now, and then in the end had to sacrifice his exit onto out of the Casio triangle, which meant that he got passed by a Kokuman.
I found that so interesting that incident basically unfolded about 5 corners before all the overtakes actually happened. You can see now Urra is getting the impetus to get through here on Ryota Kokuman as well. You've got to make sure these moves are really on here.
Benelli there as well.
Just about to say, yeah, right in the background of your picture. He's come through like a freight train. So often we've seen Benelli looking more frustrated than the bull in the soft play area at the end of these GT World Series events, and he's looking pretty handy in the Subaru 22B. So this is the shallower line that Moreno had into the first corner. Can't scrub the speed off, just runs it a bit wide, exactly as you say, what he did going in towards 130R. Kokuman goes through, Urra says, "Tar very much," and he opens the door as well. And now Benelli has gone through on a lot of them.
Wait, what? Well, we missed that. So Benelli, we were just saying, making his way through the pack, it's just driven around Moreno and Urra. So all I can think has happened there is there might have been some contact down at Spoon, and then he's just made his way through. As Moreno looks back at Benelli, we'll get back to that in a second. So here is Benelli. Was I correct? Moreno looks up the inside of Urra.
Benelli gives a tap to Moreno there, and then Moreno goes into the side of Urra. So
Benelli calls that, you think?
A little bit, yeah. It's under investigation. It said Moreno and Urra were the drivers that were going through, and I tell you what, Miyazono did well to avoid it all unfolding in front of him, but he would have thought Moses was passing the seas. More contact between Miyazono and Urra. Supra versus Porsche then, 7th and 8th place, looking to try and change hands. Behind them you've got Sam Cardinal as Moreno goes a wing mirror to wing mirror there with Lucas Benelli through the first corner. Benelli on the outside, he's going to have the inside line. It's okay if he goes onto the grass because he's got 4-wheel drive, but he does get the better eventually of Sam Moreno and goes through for 5th.
I would kind of like to see that as part of the event. Just, you know what, I'm going off-road. Rally style. Of course, the stewards will probably frown on that a little bit. But yeah, Moreno's getting involved in every fight, it seems, and still going side by side. And when you're Drummond, Serrano, Gallo and Kokuman, you're saying, all right, mate, fine. You guys squabble. We'll just get on with things. So right now, they won't be caring about the race behind them, it's looking in front of them. But Benelli, we've not seen any steward intervention yet, having a great race, up 6 places. Moreno there getting a 1-second penalty, I think maybe for his part in causing the start of that. I think what happens is he made the initial contact, slowed down, Benelli then went back into the back of him because of that, and yet Moreno I think really needs to dial it down a bit. He's doing it again, he's pushing the cars through the corner. At this rate he's going to get a big slap from the stewards, because you can't race like this in the GT World Series. They're very, very strict on contact. It seems every corner he's hitting someone.
I tell you what though, that Lamborghini Diablo does look absolutely exquisite out there on a racetrack. It's so great to see this car being driven at its full potential, because you wouldn't see this in real life. These cars are worth over £500,000 nowadays, and it just isn't something that happens. But Moreno giving it 10/10 as he's about to serve that 1-second slowdown penalty. Miyazono's under investigation for some illegal blocking, so Moreno's going to plummet right down to the back of the field then. Moves off the racing line and then moves over quite aggressively. I'm not sure on that either.
What is going on? What, has he lost his head already? I mean, he can't be doing this. He's driving again, the open lobby driving. We don't like to see that in GT. We race fairly cleanly here. As Benelli makes his way, and of course the glorious R32 GTR passes the Diablo, a superior machine. You heard it here first.
No bias in this commentary box whatsoever.
Bias.
All right, let's have a look at Miyazono then. He's under investigation for illegal blocking. So here's his move. He was attacking against Paul Urra. It was all unfolding in front of him. Right.
Do they mean Paul Urra is under investigation for illegal blocking? Because Miyazono did nothing wrong there.
Yeah, agreed. Hang on a minute. Part 2. Miyazono's now around the outside of Paul Urra. He's repaid the favour down the start finish straight. There's a bit of contact through turn 1. Miyazono gets a bit of opposite lock on and does manage to get the position and hold it against Urra, who I think just backed out of it in the mid part of the corner there, just knowing that if he'd sent it through to the side of Miyazono and he'd gone off, there would have been a penalty coming his way. And there you go, warning for Paul Urra for illegal blocking.
You're not too surprised to read that, as Miyazono makes the place in the Supra up to P6. Try and follow Benelli through at the moment. The top 4 are pretty much checked out at this point due to all the battling that's happened so far, but basically just inserting Moreno anywhere seems to be a recipe for some entertaining racing. Nonetheless, as we remain on board with Paul Urra in at the 996 GT3, looking at the back of his Toyota Supra in front. Couldn't have 2 more different cars, to be honest, but awesome to see them racing toe-to-toe like this as we come now down towards the hairpin. A great overtaking spot if you can get the car to the inside. Let's see if Urra can do that. He's a bit far back for now, but you're seeing that Supra very quick on the straights there.
Always remember watching Kamui Kobayashi here in Formula 1 when he was sending it through on the inside into there and just using other drivers as a bit of a doorstop, really, to get that car rotated.
Valid tactic.
Yeah, there was a bit of hip and shoulder behind as well. Sam Cardinal and Sam Moreno were going head-to-head for position as well. And I think Adriano Carrazza's in the mix there. He is, yeah, just at the back of your picture. But he's got a half-second penalty, presumably, for some track limits violations. Mentioned to Guy Barber and Kai de Bruyne, they've lost 5 places respectively from where they started. So not a happy hunting ground so far for the Australian and the Dutchman as it stands on lap 6 out of 8. Carrazza's going to remove himself from this battle with that half-second penalty he's about to serve. Pulls off of the racing line as he's instructed to do so. So a 3-way becomes a 2-way then here for 8th position. This will be on the grid for the grand final. I tell you what, for Urra, you've got to feel for him, really, because ultimately this has all started as a result of his difficulties that he suffered in qualifying before this race had even begun, because he was mired in the pack. He's sort of stuck in that jungle, and now he can't make any progress because the field's spread out. Yeah,
we always say just qualify better in sim racing. If you're upset about being in the mid-pack, just qualify better. And unfortunately, that is the reality of these races. If you get in the mid-pack, you're going to be fighting. Every one of these drivers believes they're the best out on the circuit right now. So no one wants to give up a place. Everyone's trying to battle through to the front. And the result is you get these little squabbles. Now, speaking of squabbles, look who has closed in on Kylian Drumont. It's the one, the only Jose Serrano, one of the, have to be probably the fastest GT driver in the world at the moment, hustling that R34 GTR after that NSX. Again, 2 very different cars and 2 very different philosophies, but on the circuit, when tuned to the same power, it seems that R34 might have a little bit of an edge.
Well, yeah, 4-wheel drive that R34, and obviously that would wear its tyres out more, but we don't need to worry about that in a sprint race like this. Let's have a look at this between Kai de Bruyne and Guy Barber just before we cross back to that thought. So Barber there in the Ferrari F40, RX7 here for Kai de Bruyne, who's going to get onto the curb on the exit of Spoon, spins one way, spins another, and does a full pirouette. Lovely the recovery as he just clips the barrier on the right-hand side, but not the fastest way around the circuit by any stretch of the imagination. Just to finish off that final thought there for the Honda NSX, just to give you an idea of this Type R model in particular that we're seeing in this race, of how nerdy it is. They had a special type of mesh developed for the gear gator to save about 20 grams, something along the lines of that.
Well, it's not enough, it seems, to fend off the turbo brick behind it. That is the GTR. Gotta love me a turbo brick, mate. Best car. Here he comes right now in the slipstream. The gap now down to under half a second. So who's got that straight line speed at the moment? It does seem that the R34 has a little bit more grunt, but then we come into 130R, very much a handling corner. And you know what? The Skyline closed in there, I think. How about the braking? Yeah, Serrano really on it now. I think Drumont's starting to feel this pressure. And this is where you have to think about things. So we're coming on to the final lap now. All this does is set the grid for the next race, for the final. So what do you do here? Do you push hard and go for that pole position, or do you go, you know what, second's fine, front row start is fine, either Drummond? Because these guys could fight, have contact, and then be nowhere.
Yeah, and also there's fuel to consider in the grand final as well, fuel, tyre wear, etc. Yep. And again, if you can follow the leader in the first part of the race, if you can sit there in second place, you can sort of react to what the driver in front of you is doing and develop your strategy on the fly. If you're the one punching the hole in the air in front of them, you've got less chance to do that. So for Serrano, do you want to win the race, or do you want to sit there in second position and just hold firm for now?
Well, we know Jose Serrano, he wants to win. he doesn't care what it's for, he wants to win everything, and has done in recent history. Nations Cup champion in 23, and of course 25, and Manufacturers Cup champion in 25 as well. Not a bad rap sheet there for the Spanish driver, but now closing in on Kylian Drumont. These guys race each other for a very long time. They're very aware of how each other race. Lots of respect between them, I imagine, until we get to the last chicane where we might have a centre-cross situation.
I'll tell you, the first sector though for Kylian Drumont looks pretty good in that Honda NSX. I wonder if it's just a little bit lighter and subsequently he's just got a bit more agility, but into the braking zone, Serrano can really stop that car, properly slam on the anchors. You can see Drumont it's not looking pensive as such, but he's starting to put that car in a few more defensive places than I think he would like to be.
You see the different lines there, how Serrano basically squared off the corner and just got on that gas in the four-wheel drive, whereas Drumont tried to carry the speed through. But here we go then, the last part of the course on the last lap into Spoon Curve, and Serrano as close as he has been so far. Now we're coming onto a straight, that's where the Skyline's been quick historically over the last couple of laps, and now he's gaining right in the toe. This could be it for the lead, Tom.
Down the back straight we go, in towards 130R. As a brave driver who can pull off a move through there. Drumont knows that Serrano is coming through as well, because he's going for the defensive line. Pulls back towards the right-hand side of the circuit, the left-hand side as we look at it, and does manage to retain the lead for now. Can Serrano invent something? Through in towards the final chicane, goes for the outside line as Drumont defends on the inside. Side by side they go, the Frenchman versus the Spaniard. Drumont has managed to hold through on the race race lead as they exit out of the final turn, and they will come towards the checkered flag unless Drummond makes a mistake. Surely he's going to take the win, and he does in the sprint race ahead of Jose Serrano, with Valerio Gallo holding on to third position at the checkered flag from Cockerman Benelli, who managed to make a great run through the field to finish in P5. Paul Urra, the points leader to remind you, will line up 6th on the grid for the grand final as well.
Yeah, great race there from Drummond and Serrano, showing us that it really does come down to the wire here. And as you say, special mention to Lucas Benelli, +6 in that race, from 11th from the grid up to 5th. That keeps his race and his grand final hopes alive here in Tokyo.
Absolutely. Well, a fantastic end to that race, and a real nail-biter between Kilian Drummond and Jose Serrano. Just 0.2 of a second separating them once all was said and done at the checkered flag. Good job also from Rios Cochrane. Slightly quieter race from his perspective there in 4th position. Well, a fantastic race then. Let's go down and catch up with our winner and the pole sitter for the grand final in the Nations Cup, Kilian Drummond.
So I'm here with the winner of the sprint race, Kilian Drummond. How was that? I mean, it always looks comfortable from here, but I feel like having Serrano just constantly behind you at a distance you can see him is quite stressful.
Yeah, quite stressful. Yeah, exactly. That year, well, Serrano was really fast, so I was a bit scared about my pace. Sorry. But yeah, it was pretty similar, but he gained like 1/10 per lap. So yeah, I just need to manage my pace, and then pretty short pace on the short gaps on the end of the race. So 1 lap more, I'm finished, I think.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, you were side by side, just in that kind of final lap. Were you panicking at that moment a little bit, or no?
Well, on Suzuka, I know how to defend on this part of the track, so I just know I need to keep the inside, and normally it should be good. So yeah, it's working well. So now just focus on the World Finals.
I mean, we were talking obviously before about you guys have raced with each other so much now. Do you feel like you can almost predict what the other drivers are going to do? Do you think you're at that stage yet? Have you reached that kind of zen state of mind?
I know really well the drivers, so I can say the weakness of drivers, but you never know because it's the competitions, it's the Gran Turismo. So yeah, every time it's changed. So yeah, and everyone improve a lot one per one. So it's changed a lot.
It's very, very true. Well, you've got the two, like got the pole and got the sprint. You've just got to keep it going now. What are you going to do? What's your strategy?
I can say no, I would not say no. I would say I would try to follow the guys and trust my strategy. I will be pretty confident. So yeah, I just need to make a good decision during the race. That's the most important. And yeah, trying to get a bit luck as well. But yeah, that's it.
I think we all need a little bit of luck here and there, don't we? Well, look, congratulations, Kilian Drummond, the winner of the sprint race. Yeah, I guess we should probably, I don't know, maybe get the grand final underway. Just a thought.
Indeed, Jules. Thank you very much. Nice to hear there from Kilian Drummond. Some great thoughts ahead of the grand final. So then, the Deep Forest Raceway in reverse. This is going to be an exciting one. The first time we've ever raced on this configuration in the GT World Series. And, well, Red Bull X 2019s, they're not the easiest of cars to handle. Let's put it that way. Around a track like this, where there's a lot of medium flowing speed corners and not a lot of room for error because there's walls either side of you, I think there could be some fireworks.
Yeah, basically T10 to T17 is all one big flowing chicane sequence, it seems. And the problem with that, if you're following someone in one of these cars, massive aero wash. It's very hard to keep the car close to the car behind. But that's part of the fun. Deep Forest Raceway Reverse, as you say, Tom, it basically means your T1, which is T5 on here, it's completely flat down there, is going to be extremely high speed entry, over 200 miles an hour.
Well, 35 laps around this circuit. It's a rolling start as well. And to remind you, all drivers must use all compounds in this race, but also there's fuel to consider as well. There's definitely an element of strategy that is going to come into this one, especially because these cars, well, they've got a V12 engine in the back of them. They're not known for being fuel efficient, let's put it that way.
No, they're not. I mean, that's part of the fun of it, isn't it? In Sim, we haven't got to worry about fuel and sustainability. Just put all the power in there. So we've given our strategy monkeys the task of giving us an idea of tyres, and here it is. So we think that maybe 10 laps maximum on the softs. Now, the reason why we highlight the soft tyres, because that is the tyre to be on. It's the fastest tyre by far here. It's about 0.8 of a second faster, 0.6 of a second faster than the medium, and then 1.2 faster than the medium, and then the hard tyre, sorry. So the hard tyre, as always, is lava. You want to spend the least amount of time on that as possible, but you must use all compounds, so it's a minimum of 2 stops. Will we see people trying to free stop?
Well, you certainly could do. I mean, if you look at the likes of Takuma Miyazono, who pioneered that strategy all of those years ago when Jimmy and I were a bit more baby-faced and certainly a bit less grey-haired.
Speak for yourself.
Well, hey now. It's been a long time since we've seen a 3-stop strategy like that, and I'd love to see something a little bit more like it. A reminder of the grid, though, for the grand final is Kilian Drummond will be on pole position with Jose Serrano alongside on that front row of the grid. Then it's Valerio Gallo, Ryota Kokubun, Lucas Bonelli, Paul Urra, Takuma Miyazono, Sam Moreno, Sam Cardinal, Adriano Carrazza, Guy Barbara, and then Kai de Bruyne.
We are just moments away from finding out who is the Round 2 Nations Cup winner for Gran Turismo World Series. PDI, are you ready? Woo! Let's find out who's going to be the winner of Round 2.
It's time then for the grand final of the Nations Cup here in Tokyo for round 2 of the 2026 GT World Series. The Deep Forest Raceway in reverse, and this is how the grid is going to be formed ahead of what is set to be, I'm sure, an exciting 35-lapper. Kilian Drummond will line it up on pole position then after a fantastic job defending from Jose Serrano right down to the checkered flag in the sprint race a few moments ago. Head of row 2 is Valerio Gallo, the Italian driver who will be looking to make amends after a difficult end to life last time out in Milan. Kokubun alongside him. Then it's Lucas Bonelli. Fantastic job to fight through the field to finish P5 ahead of the points leader of Paul Urra, who is in 6th position. Then it's Takuma Miyazono, P7 for the former quadruple world champion, and the newcomer Sam Moreno, who's having a difficult time of things so far this weekend. Sam Cardinal, P9 for him, and Adriano Carrazza completing the top 10, with the final row of the grid occupied by Guy Barbara and then Kai de Bruyne completing the field. Both of those drivers having had a tricky time of things. Now, 3 tyre compounds to remind you in this race, and the majority of the drivers at the sharp end of this one, at least all of the top 5 and as well as Paul Urra, starting on the medium tyres. Miyazono sort of the only outlier really in the top 10.
Yeah, it's always a strange task to try and decide what tyres you want for the start of this race, because if you're on the hard tyre, you tend to end up just being in the way of everyone else and then losing what I like to say, that clear running which you're all aiming for at the moment. A reminder of the live point ranking, of course that's going to change throughout the race, but if somehow the race finished as it was now, that would be your standings. But of course you've got 35 laps for that to change, and I'm sure that Serrano, Gallo, Kokubun and Bonelli all fancy themselves in finishing first in this race, and Drummond's going to do their best to try and stop that from happening.
Yep, tyre and fuel strategies to consider in this one. How will it go down? Well, we're about to find out. So Drummond is going to lead them across the line, followed by Serrano and then Valerio Gallo back. What is it going to look like when the checkered flag falls in 35 laps time? The lights go out and we go racing for the grand final of the Nations Cup here at Deep Forest Raceway. In reverse, over the crest of the hill we go and through into the fast sweeper of turn 1. Look as well at Gallo in the background, putting the pressure already onto Jose Serrano. Kokubun's in the mix there as well. Does Gallo have a big send on the inside? No, he cannot quite make his way through, but Urra can on Lucas Bonelli and does manage to get the better of them. They're almost 4 abreast on the exit of the first couple of corners. A first corner incident under investigation there as well by the race stewards, but Urra sort of the big winner really inside the top 5, and Sam Moreno up 1 and 2 places respectively. And here comes Jose Serrano for the race lead on Kilian Drummond. Gets a bit of a tap from the Frenchman who tries to repay the favour and he is then back through at the very next corner.
Yeah, Benelli is the car that got shuffled there down to last place. As Benelli, or second to last place on that medium compound tyre. So a nightmare start there after a great sprint race for him. Meanwhile, on board with Valerio Gallo, very much our camera car for the squabbling going up ahead. Dumont and Serrano fighting hard already on this first lap. As you say, Tom, things to consider is tyre life and fuel. Do you want to be the leader? Do you think you can go faster than the cars around you? That's the thing. Your pace is dictated by the car in front of you. So right now, Dumont able to hold off Serrano, but Serrano will have the advantage of being able to lift and coast a bit more. And we're already seeing a difference in fuel between the two as Corazza comes in on that one to get rid of that hard compounder tyre straight away.
Yeah, he's going for the medium tyre, so I wonder if he's going to try and do exactly what we were talking about, a three-stop strategy there, Jimmy, because, look, let's be honest, now he's right at the back of the field. You've got to try something different to get yourself up there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is part of the thing here. If you end up getting shoveled off at the first corner or losing time on the first lap, you're not going to make that back on pace. It's so competitive here, so you have to try something different on strategy. That's what we're seeing Corazza do at the moment. So Benelli and Cardinal are getting looked at for illegal blocking. We'll see if we can look at that in a minute. But your big movers so far are Moreno and Cardinal, both up 2 places, and Guy Barbara, who was up another place, was just been overtaken again by Benelli. So it's all going off in the midfield. Meanwhile, on board with Ryota Kokuben, seems to be very consistently sort of outside the top 3 right now, but again, a very experienced hand in these cars and these competitions, so never one to write off as we take a very late apex there. Interesting to see the difference in lines between the drivers up ahead here. But on board now, and you can see the cars darting from side to side, trying to break that toe. See the speed there in the bottom right-hand corner. 320 kph is 200 mile an hour, to give you an idea, and we're almost reaching it as we come down towards T1 before we just throw on the anchors there, try and slow the car down for this hairpin, all the way down to 70 kph. So big braking zone down there. Those Brembo brakes getting a battering in this race.
Be interesting to see as well how much fuel saving they're doing down this, the longest straight. Now let's have a look at what happened on that first lap. So we've got Benelli with Cardinal directly in front of him. Go through into the tunnel and then burst into the daylight, and you can see there, Benelli had a bit of contact, didn't he? And ultimately that's what caused the Brazilian driver to drop down the field. He's managed to recover his way up into 9th place as it stands for now on lap 3, as Cardinal's under investigation there for some illegal blocking.
I think what happened there is Cardinal was actually looking at the car ahead of him. I didn't realise Benelli was there as well and just came across, and of course that is still a block whether you mean to do it or not. But we'll see what the stewards say. Top 4 drivers separated by not very much in the moment as we come into the end of lap 3 here. Now, strategy-wise, these medium tyres, these medium runners, we'll see them going for quite a while yet. We don't expect any stops for the first 10 laps or so. But do we see any of these drivers maybe attempting that free stop we mentioned outside of Corazza? Here's a replay of what happened. This is lap 1. Paul Urra goes at the inside of Benelli, gets hit by Corazza. Benelli just gets shoveled out wide and then loses all the places. What a shame for Benelli.
Yeah, that is difficult, isn't it? Is it a racing incident? I mean, it's the first lap, first corner, the field's so bunched up, you've got to sort of put it down to that, really, haven't you? And a big shame there for him. But as you said, fighting his way back through the field is Lucas Benelli at the moment. The top 2 exchanging fastest sector times between Dumont and Serrano. Serrano was slightly quicker in the first sector, but then Dumont responded in the second sector last time around. The difficulty here for Dumont is he, of course, is punching that hole in the air in front of the race for everybody else. Everybody else is stuck in that slipstream behind, and if we're trying to think about fuel saving, that could be the difference over the sort of course of the first part of this race if he sits there of losing a lap or so.
To be honest, around here I think fuel saving is difficult, especially if you're leading, but we're not really seeing a big divergence in the fuel strategy so far. If anything, actually, Paul Urra and Dumont are on about a similar fuel level right now, with Serrano, Gallo and Kokuben being ever so slightly better, but nothing significant is the important thing right now. So, and if you lift down the straight here into T1, or I say T5 is what it technically is, into the hairpin, you're just going to get absolutely dived by the car behind you because the speed difference is so much. And when you let off the throttle in these cars with big aero, it's like applying the brakes in a normal family car. The deceleration is so much.
So Serrano still keeping the pressure there on Kylian Dumont. He's in a bit of an unfortunate position. He's having to try and attack and defend at the same time. Urra was out a bit wide there down at T5 with Samuel Moreno, his compatriot, directly behind. Through into the tunnel we go. I don't think we're going to see any positions really changing then here at the moment. Serrano again closes up onto the back of Kylian Dumont. Is he going to try and think about a move? I wonder if he might do actually on the inside.
Yeah,
it does. So I said we weren't going to see any moves being made, but Serrano throwing caution to the wind and going through for the race lead against the Frenchman. So now it is the former champion who is in front of the former Manufacturers' Cup champion.
I mean, what a mistake that is to let Serrano go. He is one of the fastest guys in the world in these cars. I think we'll probably end up driving down the road. Benelli just forgetting where to brake, it seems, and goes bowling down into T5 there, collects Barbara and Kai de Bruin, who seems to just always be in the way of something, bless him. But Serrano now already starting to stretch his legs and trying to put away from this gap. Now, you said before, Tom, that he's now the one punching that hole in the air. He's not going to have the draft anymore. His car, in comparison to the cars behind, will be slower down the straight. He's not getting that draft, not getting that slipstream, so he's got to do the work in that middle sector to try and put away a little bit.
Yeah, and difficult to do around here because, as you can see, it's so many medium-speed corners. There's not massive stops. As you can see, there's one there for Pol Urra on the inside of Rios Kokkerman down into turn 5. Gets that move made, and the saving grace there for Urra is, of course, he'll have that slipstream in front of him as well by Valerio Gallo. So even though he'll have compromised his exit a fair bit going out of that last corner, it won't actually matter too much because he'll be able to gain that time back as they head towards the braking zone, and subsequently he's not under any immediate pressure from the Japanese driver, who now sits in the middle of a Spanish sandwich.
Yeah, that was a great move from Urra. Just caught Kokkerman napping there a little bit and just thought, I'll have that. So here's a replay. So on board Pol Urra, Kokkerman in front here. We're going to dive to the inside, go late. There it is, and the gap is there. We take it. Kokkerman gives us the space, and through we go into P4. Lovely move.
Yeah, so late, wasn't it? But really set that one up beautifully for Pol Urra. And this is what he needs to do, let's not forget as well. A reminder, he was leading the point standings coming into this one. Qualified 6th after finishing P6 in that sprint race. He's made up 2 positions from where he started, but progress in this first third for Pol Urra is absolutely critical as to what sort of a chance he's going to have for fighting for the podium places in the end of this race, but also possibly the race victory, because as you can see, the top 3, they are still very much in the frame.
For now, yeah. So on lap 7 at the moment. Probably seen something.
I'll just say the only thing I would say about Pol Urra is he used a few litres more fuel relative to some of the other drivers around him. So he's on 68, 69 litres of fuel relative to Gallo, who's on 72, 70 litres there for Kylian Drumont as well. So if he's expending that in the early stages, it doesn't sound like a lot, but those couple of litres of difference might matter when it comes to the pit stop, because what is the total lost time when it comes to refueling? It's 3 litres per second. So again, that could be a second or so. Doesn't sound like a massive amount of time, but when you're in the pit stop, a second when you then get back out into the racetrack, it's a heck of a lot harder to make that gap up.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's just free time you're giving away there, but that means Urra's had to do that because he's trying to come back through the field. So now maybe that he'll be on the back of Gallo here. You can't see him, but you can just might see the mirrors actually. If you look down at the bottom half of your picture there, he might just try and coast a bit more now, because this little pack at the front isn't going anywhere. They're not able to get away. As long as you're on the back of that, as Kokkerman, as Moreno is, not really spoken about him much, but he is back there. There he is there in the back of your picture. That's what we're going to be right now. Now you've got to figure out your strategy. Now you're in your little train. There's a big gap behind them. Cardinal, though, in 7th place, leading up the second pack, as you would say. But Miyazono, Kai de Bruin and Guy Barber still out there on that hard compound of tyre. Karatza choosing not to do that and maybe going for the free stop. Keep an eye on these guys, because they're down the field now, but of course that will come back to them when they move on to the faster compound of tyre a bit later on in the race.
Yeah, so Karatza, we think, as we mentioned earlier on, is trying that 3-stop strategy, isn't he? He's what, 5.4 seconds off the back of Barbara, De Bruin and Miyazono. So yeah, he's going to be closing up onto the back of him before too long, and you would imagine challenging for position. But the question is he able to then get himself into a nice bit of clear air, run his own race and use that 3-stop strategy to his advantage? It depends very much on what the drivers in front are going to be able to do to see whether he can make much of an impression. But as we said, at the moment he won't be scoring any points. He wouldn't have been scoring any points down there where he lined up in 10th on the grid anyway, so trying something different, nothing to lose at this stage for the Brazilian driver. So, across the line we go. We begin at lap 9 out of 35. All pretty static at the sharp end of this one. Serrano and Drumont, of course, have changed places for the race leaders we know now. De Bruin and Guy Barbara going into the pit lane at the end of the 8th lap then, so the start their 9th, and they go onto the medium compound of tyre for their middle stint. So a reminder, they've already done the hard tyre now. They've got that sort of phase out of the race early, and they've gone for about what we were expecting, about 9 laps or so. I mean, it's, yeah, around there and thereabouts. It was between 7 and 9 laps. It's on the longer side, if anything else, but they're now going to have the quicker tyres towards the sort of middle and end of the race.
I am surprised not to see Miyazono come in there on that hard compound of tyre. Maybe he's cooking something. He likes to cook, Miyazono, so we'll see what he's doing. But yeah, being on that hard compound of tyre is just going to hurt him now. But Kai de Bruin and Guy Barber there out the pits on the medium compound. Can they come back through the field? They've got a lot to do during this race. They also took some fuel as well, both of them, importantly. So that will take them to the end from here, I think. Maybe one more fuel stop for them. But here is Valerio Gallo in a moment. behind Kylian Drummond, who's fallen back a little bit now from Jose Serrano. Serrano making a bid for freedom at the front there, using a bit of fuel to do so, but it has to be worth it because despite this, I mean, yeah, 6/7 is a gap now. If he can keep that, he'll just extend that slowly, and that will then eventually take the draft away from Drummond.
Just to remind you, different fuel maps these drivers can run as well. They can run it richer or they can run it leaner, depending on what they want at the time. So as you say, you might have just upped the fuel map there for Jose Serrano, just to be expending a little bit more in this early phase of the race, and then they'll have to try and save it a bit later on. For Miyazono, as you say, trying something different with the strategy. I was just looking at his lap time last time around. It was a 1 minute 10.4. It's about 0.6 of a second slower than some of the other drivers in and around him. So he's not setting lightning pace up there, but as you say, trying something different is Takuma Miyazono, trying to get himself into the points, maybe going long on this hard tyre so that he can then have fresher, medium or soft tyres, use them for less time, and then subsequently have a bit more pace once he is in that phase of the race for him. We'll see whether it works. He's currently sitting in P9 for now, as we ride on board here with Valerio Gallo. Dust being kicked up from Kylian Drummond in front of him. It always amazes me how these drivers are able to just thread the eye of a needle lap after lap after lap. Such consistency, and they're just sort of flirting with the edge of danger.
We've seen it like in previous races where Moreno was doing that, and you see one small mistake and the car is in the wall before you can even think about it. Such is the speed of these things as we watch them go up the hill. Do we see any lift from Gallo here, or is he full attack? Full attack, so no lift at all as Miyazono finally comes into box. Now what's he going to do? I always watch his pit stops with sort of like a little bit of anticipation. Soft. What's going on here? What's going on, mate?
So what he's done there is he's gone longer on the hard tyre to try and then go on the soft tyre, do as long as he can on this, and then subsequently he'll have a shorter stint on the medium tyre. So the idea being that he'll be able to take as much life now out of those soft tyres as he can, because once he's got 6 seconds to the back of Adriano Corazza, so he can run and clear it, just set qualifying laps for the next couple, try and clear that down, and then basically get the undercut whenever all the other pit stop, or the overcut as it will be for him, once it all works out.
Yeah, that is something as well that we didn't really mention, that clear air here on a soft tyre is worth a lot of time, and he now has 8 seconds or so, 5 seconds or so to drive into, so that'll be really, really good for him. Whether that will be the strat remains to be seen, but he was on that tyre just a bit too long. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, these guys know better than I do, but it's always interesting to try and decipher what these guys are going through their heads as we go through this race. We're on lap 12 now, so coming up to the midway point, not quite there yet though. Serrano's still leading from Drummond. He was building a gap. That gap's come back down again now, just showing you how hard it is to break away at the front of his pack once there is a bit of a slipstream train. It's sort of the characteristic of his car, the racing here. They punch such a big hole in the air that if you're sitting behind someone, it's basically just like an extra 50 horsepower, so it's kind of hard to put away if you're at the front.
It's the thinking driver's race, this one, isn't it? You've got to play the long game here in these sort of 45-minute, I want to say endurance races is sort of not really doing it justice, but it is a sprint. Yeah, it's just a long sprint really, but yeah, it's one of those where you've got to play the game and just wait and see how it all works out. The difficulty is, if you're leading the race, you don't know if anybody else is going to do the same strategy from behind. In theory, it should be a case of follow the leader, at least in the first or maybe couple of pit stops, but sometimes it doesn't work out like that. If you're killing Drummond, maybe you try something different, maybe you pit a lap early and try and get it out of the way.
Interesting difference in lines there between Serrano and Drummond. Yeah, a bit of a fuel calculation there on the screen. As you can see, Serrano using a bit more to stay at the front. That is going to come back to bite him at some point. Tyre life there, bit mixed, but kind of very similar through the rest of the field there. But I was just going to say, Serrano using a lot more of the curb on the left-hand side for the last corner, opening up the corner and carrying a bit more speed through there. So here's Kokubun. He was, we'll say, pickpocketed by Urra, and now Moreno doing the same thing as he runs right. Moreno goes up into 5th place and just about slides past Kokubun. Will we see him attack back at the hairpin? He's right in the toe. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Moreno defend here.
Yeah, he's going to try to, isn't he, here, Sam Moreno? But I don't think he really doesn't need to. Yeah, exactly. He's got that gap quite comfortably covered over Urra. But he set that one up about 3 corners earlier. It was a brilliant bit to watch. He had so much momentum out of the final turn there on the Japanese driver, and ultimately he gets rewarded with 5th place. So yeah, Miyazono wants the gap now down to Benelli. Benelli's just pitted, by the way, so he's gone onto the soft tyre, down to 0.3 of a second. That might compromise Miyazono. He now needs to get ahead of the Brazilian driver as soon as he possibly can in order to make this strategy work, because there's then another 3 seconds up the road to Adriano Corazza. So again, this is the thing for Miyazono. That strategy on the soft tyre could work if you've got clear air and you're not getting your run disrupted. If you need to set these qualifying laps after qualifying laps, it could prove to be a bit difficult if you end up in traffic. Right, let's have a look at what happened there for Moreno versus Kokubun then. So through in towards there, and Kokubun was just a little bit deep actually into the hairpin of turn 5. Moreno saw the door open, said thanks very much, walked through it quite nicely.
Just all it takes is a little mistake, use the place. That's how close it is at the top of this fight. Now, to just check back in with Takuma Miyazono, he has set the fastest lap of the race so far, 108.5. Just in context, the pace differential at the front is about a second lap slower at the moment, but now he's running with Benelli, and that's really going to affect his lap times, I think. But we'll keep an eye on that because that's one to watch for the alternative strategy. Meanwhile, Serrano still leading the pack. It is in a bit of a fuel deficit compared to the rest of them, though.
I was just about to say, Valerio Gallo, what's he there? 39 litres. He's got more than that, 6 litres left over Jose Serrano. So he's just been sitting there biding his time, hasn't he, the Italian, just saving his fuel in third place, having something of a quiet first stint to the race, and this could prove to pay dividends because, again, you're gaining sometimes nearly 2 seconds if you've got 6 litres. 3 litres a second is the refuelling time, just to remind you, in this one, and that could prove to be absolutely pivotal in terms of how the race unfolds for the Italian driver. This could be pivotal for Takuma Miyazono's chances of a result in this race as well. He's now stuck behind Lucas Benelli at exactly the wrong point in the lap. Those medium speed sweepers, you can't go 2 by 2 through there. He needs to depose of Benelli and also subsequently Adriano Corazza as soon as he possibly can here.
Corazza's running a lot slower than these two at the moment, about a second a lap slower, actually more than that. It's they're both running 8.5s, Miyazono and Benelli. Corazza's at a 10.1, so they need to get by him very quickly for that strategy to work. But if you're Miyazono, you're thinking, oh bother, when you see this guy come out in front of you, there goes my strategy. But it seems that Benelli's able to keep pace, and that actually isn't so bad. If they can both keep that same pace, that's going to be great. Now, are we going to see a bit of patriotism here between Corazza and Benelli? Will Corazza give Benelli the place, you think, here, seeing him charging from behind, or will he keep him there?
Let's have a look. He just keeps him there for now, doesn't he? I don't think he was that close, but again, like you said, Benelli definitely got more pace underneath him, and they're going to be all over the back, and are indeed now all over the back of Corazza like a bad rash. The problem is going through these corners, exactly what we saw last time around for Miyazono. They've got the pace, but they haven't got the opportunity or the room to be able to send one through, and they're just stuck behind him as it stands for now. Again, Corazza doing exactly what he's entitled to do, defending the line. No reason for him to move out of the way. Down the hill and towards the right-hander, maybe there's a door there, but again, Corazza parks the car on the apex, doesn't allow it. And you can see Benelli having to feather the throttle as eventually Corazza then does peel off into the pit lane at the end of lap 16, comes into the box and will change off of the medium compound of tyre, and crucially releases Benelli as well as Miyazono into clear air.
That might make a bit of a difference, you know. I mean, that was definitely about a second or so lost in that middle sector for both of them there. Their lap times, about a second slower than last lap. And now they've got to try and get back into it again. And they'll also to consider that Miyazono and Benelli are both running very low fuel right now. Not quite as low as the cars around them, I mean, at the top, but they're making the use of that soft tyre with low fuel loads for maximum lap time. So for these two, this is the most important phase of the race.
Gallo still doing a really good job of saving fuel. He's again about 8 litres now up over Jose Serrano the last time of checking it. We've got a time screen here in the commentary box which gives us live data of what's going on for those drivers, and Drummond on 25 litres, Serrano on 19 litres, Gallo on 28 litres, or now just down to 26. So yeah, it's interesting to see how that's ebbing and flowing, but they are crucially coming towards the end of the shelf life of those medium compound tyres. Cardinal's the first driver to blink from sort of the lead group of them who are yet to pit in this race, and surely it's going to be a case of next time round, because I don't think these drivers are going to have much choice inside the top 6 places, because they're not going to have any life left in the rear.
Cardinal deciding just to fuel her up now, probably to the end of the race. 51 litres going into the car, or in the car I should say, in total. Onto the hard goes Cardinal, so we might see him just come back in again, bomb some more tyres on, to be honest, because so the hard tyre just is not of any really use around here. It's just something you have to run as part of the strategy. Here's Urra and Moreno. Moreno's having the pace and almost, I think, maybe just gives a little bit of a tap there to Urra to unsettle him. Will he try the inside here? No, he can't quite get a move done there. They're both offline though, both slowing each other down. Moreno there, getting all kinds of sideways, trying to get on the power there. The rear tyres, of those Dunlop rear tyres, starting to get to their limit, I'd say, at the moment, those medium compound. And I see a little bit of, and there you go, Moreno going, you know what, actually, I don't want to do that again, and boxes straight away. Yeah, so he comes into the pit lane, doesn't he, Moreno? So he's trying to get the undercut then here. Now, which way is he going to go in terms of tyre strategy? Because this is our first driver really from sort of this lead group that we get an idea. Goes on to the hard tyres then in the middle stint of this race. He's got a gap behind him, or does he? So this is where we're going to see where Benelli and Miyazono are in context to the race. I think they might do it. There's a bit of fuel going in as well, keep that in mind. So Moreno comes out. Where is Benelli and where is Miyazono?
They've done it. They've done it. Yeah, and they've done it by about 0.4 of a second. So that's, look, it's not great for Samuel Moreno, but the thing is, all he'd ended up doing is holding them up eventually anyway. And for Benelli and Miyazono, it's music to their ears because they needed to leapfrog him in order to make that strategy work. A reminder, of course, that they've already done the hard tyre in this one. No further action for Urra and Moreno for that contact that we saw last time around. So that's good news from that perspective. Meanwhile, sharp end of this one, Gallo still having done a relatively decent job of saving fuel. Serrano, again, as we know, has used a fair bit more fuel actually relative to the two drivers behind him. And let's see, I think they're all going to peel off into the pit lane. I don't think they have a choice because those medium tyres are very much second hand now. Do they go for the hard tyre in this middle stint? I imagine it's a case of what one driver does, the other driver is going to do. They're all going to have to take on fuel crucially as well. So this could see a change of positions, especially between Serrano and Drummond and Gallo, depending on how much fuel they take on board.
Right, so Gallo's going to go to, basically he's going to have a quicker stop. That's fuel, so he's gone for the soft tyres. He's going to try and jump more in the pit lane and then get ahead at the front and then just put away. Let's see if that's paid off. It hasn't, no, because Drummond and Serrano are out already. No, it's just, who is that?
No, so Gallo took more fuel on. He took more fuel on relative to Serrano and Drummond in that one. But crucially, he needed to do that because he needed to stay ahead of Miyazono from behind. So his hand was kind of forced there, really, because if he'd stayed in that pit lane for another second or so longer, he'd have dropped right behind. So it's brought Gallo right back into play. He's now on the soft tyre, but of course, he's still got more fuel on board because he didn't use as much in that first stint of the race. Now you've got Serrano and Drummond who are on the hard tyre, so they've decided to get that out of the way in the middle stint to try and play the longer game to then have the soft tyre at the very end of this race. But of course, they're going to have to make a longer pit stop for their final time in the pit lane here. And you can see just how much more pace Gallo's got underneath him around the outside here of Kylian Drummond. He's going to make this move stick as they go into the tunnel. That's a brave move there for Valerio Gallo as he draws alongside the Frenchman. Drummond's trying to defend it. Up the inside he goes, and he's through and releases himself into third place as Drummond slots down into fifth with Miyazono picking his pocket as well.
He's got to do it. Gallo's got to do it because any time he's spent with other cars in front of him is time lost. So in comes Miyazono coming. He is coming in now into the pits, has to do so. Those soft tyres are spent. What will he do now? Will he go to mediums to the end? That might be a strategy that works out. I will have to wait and see. But meanwhile, we'll keep an eye on Serrano and Gallo. Gallo there now starting to get onto the back of Serrano. Goes for a huge move up the inside there from another post-go. They're using that soft compounded tyre, getting the car stopped, and now we'll go flying after Benelli. Now, Benelli's done a great job of keeping his tyres alive compared to Miyazono, who had to box there. So he's been much kinder on his Dunlop soft tyres and now is leading this race at the moment. But Gallo, provisionally, I think overall is our leader.
Yeah, so Gallo, what he needs to do now is get ahead of Benelli, clear off into the distance and just set qualifying lap after qualifying lap and then pit for the hard tyre at the end of this race. That is the only thing that Gallo can do now. He wants to win this one. He did a really good job of saving fuel in that first stint, and this race is now beginning to come to him here. Let's have another look at that move and what unfolded. So we're on board here with Takuma Miyazono. This is how he got past Kylian Drummond, sent it around the outside as they went through the tunnel, up the inside through into the right-hander. Miyazono said, thanks very much, the door's open, I'll go through that as well, and pick the pocket of the Frenchman. He then pitted later on in the lap, which released Drummond, but nonetheless, spectacular to watch. And Gallo is driving like a man who's left the gas on at the moment because he's now within half a second or so of Lucas Benelli, and surely he's going to be lining one up as we head onto the back straight.
Super opportunistic there from Takuma Miyazono. We'll go back to him in a minute because he's doing something very curious right now. But here is Valerio Gallo. He's in the tow of Lucas Benelli. You have to think there's going to be a big centre. They are on the same compounded tyre, albeit Benelli's tyres are much more worn at this point. Now, will Lucas fight this? You see, he's going to the inside. No, he's not. Gallo goes for a lunge. There you go, takes it. He had to do it there. And now, as you say, Tom, it is qualifying time for Valerio Gallo. Get the hammer down and make the use of the fact that you are on a relatively low fuel load. You have the best tyre of the three and you have a clear track. Those things coming together means fast laps. So this is now Gallo's time to try and win this race. Conversely, let's look at the other side of the grid. Back to P12, Miyazono. He's made both his stops. He's got all his fuel on board. He's taken the fuel to get to the end of the race and he's got a clear circuit to the end pretty much now.
Yeah, so the total gap for Takuma Miyazono is 36 seconds. Total pit loss time, we're expecting to be 10 seconds plus the stop duration, plus whatever fuel he needs to take on board. Let's call it 21 seconds or so. So what he now needs to do is just take chunk after chunk after chunk out whilst he sat there in that clear air in order to be able to get himself inside contention for points positions here for Takuma Miyazono. A reminder that he started this race 5 places further up the grid than he sits now. So P7 is where he lined up in the field. As you say, he's tanked his way up to the end of this race. So if he can get himself inside the top 6, the top 5, there could be some points on offer here for Miyazono. I don't think the podium's going to be in contention, but you never know.
I think he's got a chance.
You think so?
I think he does. We'll see. I mean,
I suppose, yeah, they're going to owe a lot of fuel, but then he's going to come in the end of this one because he's going to be running on fumes by the end of it. And then you've got all these hard shot runners that are going to come in as well. I think
because the stops are more like 30-something seconds with all that fuel going in, so they're very long. So I mean, we'll keep an eye out, of course. Like we're doing our best to decipher this race. It's always like this in these races. Fuel and tyres and the track position, it all comes into it. That's why these races are so interesting here. So lap 22, we still have 13 laps left to run. Gallo is your leader. He's already got a gap of about 3 seconds over Benelli, who's now boxing in. So Serrano really has to do his best on this hard compound tyre, and to be fair, he's putting in some good times. We're on a 9.5 from Serrano on that hard compound. At the start of the stint, the hards aren't that bad, they're okay, and they sort of stay okay for a long time. It's the softs that really need to be just abused, and Gallo's done that. It's on his fastest lap of the race a couple of laps ago, 108.1, so he's currently got the fastest lap, and you're seeing now, here's the stop, look, 26, 27, it's a long stop for Benelli. Where is Miyazono? So he'll be the first person to give us an idea of how that works out, and Benelli is ahead of Miyazono, so I think that Miyazono took more fuel, first of all, he took much more fuel than Benelli did.
Yeah, he's tanked up to the end of the race, as we say, for Lucas Benelli, and the total gap 38 seconds. So again, you're absolutely right, Jim. I don't think it's out of contention. What he needs to do, though, is just not get too involved with Benelli, because what is he, 2.5 seconds or so behind the Brazilian driver? If he ends up in a fight with him, even though he's on a quicker compound of tyre, that could be the difference. We know how crucial it is to make those moves absolutely decisively. If you sit behind them for even one corner too long, that can be the difference between finishing 5th or finishing 3rd, because once it all converges at the end of this race, that is how fine the margins can be. Let's have a look at Valerio Gallo. So he pulled out a gap, but he's going to have made a mistake, isn't he? And he's just got a little bit sideways. That is as close to the limit as you want to get. He is properly pushing on, is Valerio Gallo. The gap, 4.7 seconds on that soft compound of tyre at the moment.
So this, you know what, with the greatest respect to Valerio, this is sort of what happens. He gets out front, he's got the pace, and then he'll make a small mistake somewhere, which, as we saw in Milan, turned into a very big mistake very quickly. So he needs to, I mean, he's good in this car. He's good at getting his head down doing qualifying laps, but he can't push too hard. You've got to keep it on that fine line between 100% and then going over the limit. You know, it's very, very tricky, especially in these sort of cars, and they are twitchy, they are difficult, especially as these tyres start to fall away. And these cars use their rear tyres more than their front tyres, so that basically means you're going to get surprised at some point with some oversteer, and if you're not expecting it, it can be a very nasty surprise. So only 15 litres left in the tank for Gallo, so he's not got much longer on this tyre.
No, they're going to be into their final stints, but Serrano and Urra are going to have to pit sooner, because you can see they've only got 6 litres of fuel. They might get one more lap in here. I think they are going to. So across the line there will go. It'll be lap 26 where we're going to see those final pit stops taking place. But they have, of course, run that hard compound of tyre. Conversely, of course, we know that Gallo is still going to owe slower compound of tyre relative to the other drivers who are behind him. So that's, of course, the payoff here for the Italian at the moment, is he's managing to sort of reap the rewards in this middle stint of the race, but then he's going to subsequently be slower at the end of it. We have seen drivers able to do that and able to hold on, but it depends on how much of an advantage they're able to build out. 6 seconds or so sounds like a lot. Once again, those pit stops have worked out. It's not going to be a lot.
Well, just think the fuel difference between Serrano and Gallo is basically 3 seconds or more in the pits. So it's a litre per 3. It's a second per 3 litres. So it's about 10. It's about 10 between them. So really, that's the difference in their overall time and the time that Gallo has saved. So next stop for Serrano, as what I'm saying, will be 3 seconds longer than Gallo's stop. So that's something to take into account. Where that fits in this big puzzle of strategy, it remains to be seen, but it is something to think about.
I tell you what, I'm really impressed with San Moreno, actually. Difficult start to life in this Nations Cup this weekend, in particular, with a challenging time in qualifying, and he's right on the back there of Pol Urra as Serrano and Drummond come into the pit lane. But for the rookie in his debut season in the GT World Series, put in some really strong performances, just needs to iron out those creases, really, doesn't he, here? And you can see just how fine the margins are between these drivers. Look at how much fuel they're able to take on. Drummond, I think, is the outlier here, because he had a bit more fuel relative to the likes of Serrano, and certainly a lot more compared to Urra and Moreno as well. That might put him in good stead in the closing stages.
He might get out before him.
I think he might.
We'll see. I mean, it seemed like a long time here. There goes Drummond, is he ahead?
Yeah, he is.
Drummond's ahead of Serrano. There you go. So saving that little bit of fuel there, Drummond is able to leapfrog Jose Serrano in the pit stop, and now is ahead on circuit. No more stops to be made for these guys, so they're just going to be flying to the end now on the soft compound tyre. But Serrano losing track position.
So, a reminder, Valerio Gallo still needs to pit, still owes another compound of tyre, which will be slower than the softs. You've got Cockerman, who's sort of a bit of an outlier because he's yet to pit in this one. He's some, 20 seconds or so up the road relative to Kylian Drummond, who is essentially the one who's battling now for the win in this. Gallo and Cockerman are going to have to come in at the end of this lap because they've got no fuel left on board. But the question is, has Drummond going to have done it, or is he going to have done enough to have the undercut really, relative to Valerio Gallo, or is this middle stint on the soft compound of tyre been enough for Gallo to hold on? We're about to find out. Cockerman into the pits from second place, and Gallo is surely going to come in.
He's on the in-lap now, I think, Tom, going down the back straight. I think he should have boxed then, to be honest. His last lap was 109.2, so the tyre really starting to fall away from him, maybe going one lap too long on that soft compound tyre, but of course he does have to go, I think, to the hard tyre for the end. I think that's the tyre he still owes at this point, might be the medium, sorry. I'll have to we'll see in a minute, but he'll be on the slower compound tyre is what I'm trying to say. So the gap is 33 seconds. He's got to put fuel in as well. It's going to be very close because Drummond is charging right now.
Yeah, he's got 1 litre of fuel left here as Valerio Gallo. He's going to be cruising his way to the line, and I wonder if, like you say, he's just left this 1 lap too late, and now the problem is that Carl sort of goes into like a emergency fuel saving mode, really, like a limp mode effectively, so it will be denying him as much power. He's just about able to keep it on the straight and narrow, but you can see how fine the margin is. No litres of fuel left on the tank of that car. So off of the soft tyre goes Valerio Gallo. 33 seconds the gap between himself and Kylian Drummond, but we know the lap times there going to be quicker for Drummond, and of course Gallo is now on the hard compound of tyre and has to take fuel on board. I think Drummond is going to have enough to take this.
I don't think so. He's going to have less fuel to put in because he came in later.
That's a very good point.
So Drummond's going around the last corner now, and out goes Valerio Gallo. So Gallo will lead this race.
But for how long?
Yeah, he's on that hard compound tyre. It's going to be a sitting duck, but the gap is pretty significant, the gap. It's about 2 or 3 seconds, maybe more than that. Drummond now coming through. Gallo's going through the T5, so the gap is 7 seconds at the moment. So Gallo now has to hold on for dear life, because behind him he's got Drummond, Serrano, Moreno and Urra and Cockerman all on the soft compound tyre, all lapping about a second a lap faster than he is. Boy, this is all going to come down to the wire, Tom.
Yeah, it is. And the thing is, 7 seconds? Let's have a look. Last time around, 1 minute 8.3 for Gallo. We're looking around the sort of 109s, 110s for a quick lap time on the hard compound of tyre. I think Drummond is going to be right on the heels of Valerio Gallo within the next 3 or 4 laps or so. Lap 28 out of 35 are on. He's got time to be able to do it. He doesn't necessarily need to rush it. For the likes of Serrano and Moreno, they're going to hope that they can just follow Drummond right up onto the back of the Italian driver here then. So it's the middle stint, whether it'll be won or lost here for Valerio Gallo.
He's already taken a second and a bit out of him since we started looking at the gap there. So I think that it's only a matter of time for Valerio Gallo. He's going to see that too, and that's the worst feeling as a driver, just seeing the gap behind you come down by that much over the course of a lap. Now, those hard tyres take a little bit of time to warm up. Once they're there, they are capable of sort of 109s, low 109s, but right now Drummond's doing 108 with Serrano behind doing a 107.8, fastest lap of the race. So who is the threat here? Is it Kylian Drummond, Jose Serrano, or both of them?
I think it's both of them. I think it's absolutely game on, because they're sitting there, lapping relatively similar times, and it's going to come down to, crucially, how quickly they can get ahead of Valerio Gallo, and then how quickly that battle unfolds in front of them, and how much time they have left in order to sort of begin to sort that out. But as you say, Gallo now 2 seconds slower per lap than Kylian Drummond, and 5.5 laps remaining between these two. Keep an eye out for Takuma Miyazono, by the way, just on a brief sort of juncture on that. He's down in 7th place. He's on the medium tyre, but he's on that sort of longer stint. I know you've got the likes of Cockerman, etc., who's up in front, and I wonder if he might be able to do something. If they start squabbling in front of them, it might bring him back into play. He started 7th. He's in 7th at the moment. He's on the fringes of the points positions, for some 5.3 seconds back at the moment. He needs to hope that they, again, start fighting in front.
You know, I thought it was some sort of Miyazono master plan. It turns out it wasn't. I mean, as it all checks out at the end, it's just mid-stint.
No, but he's hoping for these drivers in front to start squabbling, isn't he? That's all he can hope for now at this stage. Right, let's have a look then at Jose Serrano, who again is still on the coattails here of Kylian Drumont. The one saving grace for Gallo here could be if these two start fighting, and it might just give him a bit more breathing space. Serrano knows that. He's in the slipstream here. He wants the challenge for the victory and for maximum points. He's second in the standings, and he now goes through to second in the race against the Frenchman down into the hairpin at the end of the back straight. So suddenly it's Drumont going from challenging for the win to Serrano.
It's getting intense now, Tom, mate. And the thing is, behind these guys, not too far behind, is Moreno and Urra. So what you're really thinking, I think, what we're thinking for Gallo now is not whether he's going to win this race or not, it's how far is he going to drop down the field, how many people are going to catch him, because we saw earlier with Gallo on Drumont, he can go around the outside on the soft tyre. The soft tyre is that much better, and now you can see him in the same picture. Look up the road, there he is, and Serrano will see him too, and that is always just a little mental encouragement. I can see the guy I'm chasing, I can see I'm catching him. It's worth a tenth a lap at least, and now we both on board with Drumont flying up the hill once more. Drumont really wants to take a stab at Serrano here. If you're Gallo, you want to see them fight, but I think they know better than that. I think they're going to just work together and they'll sort it out towards the end.
Di Barbara and Benelli under investigation for a collision. Just saw Barbara dropping down the timing tower, so I wonder if he was the victim or the aggressor in that one. Down the back straight we go though with Valerio Gallo. Gap now under 3 seconds.
There is one saving grace possibly for Gallo, and that is the tyre life for these guys. Those rear tyres for both Serrano and Drumont already at 50% past their life. So there's a possibility here that as we get further on the race, I mean, Gallo's got to hold on, that's the thing. And we saw towards the end of Gallo's stint that his times really dropped off.
Let's have a look at Benelli versus Barbara then. We just saw this under investigation. Benelli here on the inside, bit of contact, and Barbara ends up in the wall as a result of it. And Cardinal goes through there as well. Right. Gap again continuing to come down. As you say, the one thing is here, are those soft tyres going to be able to hold on? 2 seconds, and now the gap between them. They're going to come into slipstreaming range around 1.1, 1.2 seconds. That's when you'll start seeing the real big chunks being taken out of the race leader. Last time around, just to give you an idea of the difference in lap times, 109.7 for Valerio Gallo, 108.7 for Jose Serrano, a second quicker between those two.
But those times for Serrano and Drumont have decreased, increased I should say, sorry, from 108.1. So they've lost 0.6 in that second in pace, and the tyre goes that way. And we saw Gallo towards the end of his stint running sort of mid-109s on the soft tyre as it got really worn out.
Tell you what, for Paul Urra, it's going from bad to worse. He's just dropped down to 6th place after scoring maximum points in Milan. It could only be 1 point on the board for the man who was leading the standings. At this rate, it's going to be Jose Serrano, who surely will be taking over the top, or it could be Kylian Drumont, depending on how it works out in just over 3 laps' time. Through to the left-hander we go, and Drumont doing a really good job of keeping him honest. I wonder if he's just waiting, just biding his time and seeing what happens and waiting to see how it unfolds in front of him, to see if there's the right opportunity to pounce and attack against Serrano.
Huge understeer there for Drumont, just getting in that dirty air. You could hear the tyre scrubbing as he tried to turn it in, and Serrano now is right behind Valerio Gallo. So now it is fight on for the lead of this race for the second round here at Tokyo as part of the Nations Cup. Can we see Serrano make it 2 Spanish winners in a row here this year? Let's see, down towards the hairpin, not quite close enough for now, but you have to think it's coming soon, because Gallo's down to a 10.0. The pace differential is huge here, Tom.
It's going to be down into the braking zone of the next hairpin, isn't it? Because of course Serrano's got the slipstream, Gallo does not. Into the braking zone we're about to head, and he's eyeing it up, he's lining it up. Gallo might try and defend the line and does so, forces Serrano to go the long way around the outside off onto the curb, and he'll have greater traction and greater grip when he gets there. Tries to push him towards the wall on the outside and does just about manage to defend the position, but he's going to be a sitting duck surely for this next series of S-bends. But it's so difficult to go 2 by 2 through there. Serrano tries to invent something, plays in like a fiddle, switches it back on the inside, and Drumont finds the gap and goes through as well. So Gallo loses 2 places in the space of 1 corner, and now it's game on for the win between Jose Serrano and Kylian Drumont.
I don't know if there's a little bit of a bump there, Tom, or not. It was hard to see in that camera angle, but it looked like there's a small bump, and that sort of moved Gallo out of the way a little bit. If so, that'll be investigated by the stewards, but if not, this race has just come alive for Drumont and Serrano, because Gallo really can't respond to this pace. Here's a replay, let's see what happens. So we're on board with Drumont here as you go through this little sector. Was there any contact? No, I don't think there was. I think Gallo just went in too deep trying to defend there, There was contact between the two of them there. Oh, and Drumont just had a little wiggle trying to get on the gas there. That would have been the lead for him there, but just didn't quite make it work. So now Drumont, it's his turn to try and get by Serrano. Can he invent something down towards this hairpin?
Gallo's going to lose the podium, I think, as well to Moreno, possibly even Cockburn nipping at his heels before the end of this race as well. So you can see Gallo and Serrano under investigation for the collision. I think that's going to be all right, to be honest with you. It's a bit of a race against them. There's a little bit of contact between them, but ultimately different tyres, different strategies, and just converging and trying to fight for position.
Well, we have to think as well that if he did bump him out of the way, that's not allowed, even if it was unintentional. And of course you have to take into consideration you're on different tyres, and it has affected the outcome of the race as well. So there it is, 1 second penalty. So the stewards there deeming Serrano at fault for that incident, which hands the race to Kilian Drumont. So we're coming on to the last lap now. Serrano will have to serve that penalty on the back straight, I think the penalty section zone is. And if Gallo can stay close, he might be able to take back second place. But Drumont now has been effectively gifted this win if he can just stay close to Serrano.
Well, he doesn't need to send one through on the inside as Kilian Drumont, like you say, just needs to be patient, just needs to bide his time, and this could open the door, like you say, for Valerio Gallo to hold on to the podium places and possibly challenge for second position as well, because it's not only the time you lose, it's also the time you lose gaining, getting back up to speed, and Gallo walks through the door, possibly Samuel Moreno as well. So from possibly winning the race to maybe not even finishing on the podium for Jose Serrano as well, with his countrymen attacking him down in towards the right-hander. Moreno's got no stake in the championship as it stands for now, but he has got a stake in trying to get himself back onto the podium position. Side by side they go, and the young Spaniard goes through, and Serrano nearly loses it there, and also loses the place to Ryota Cockburn. So from the race lead down to 5th place on the final lap for Jose Serrano. How the tables have turned so quickly here in the Gran Turismo World Series, and ultimately it has opened the door for Kilian Drumont to walk through it with massive glee. He will come through out of the final corner to take his first win in the Nations Cup in the Gran Turismo World Series for 2026, ahead of Valerio Gallo and Samuel Moreno. Ryota Cockburn over the line in P4 ahead of a disconsolate Jose Serrano, who lost not only the lead but the podium and also the lead in the championship as we head forwards to Singapore as well. It's a subdued end for the Spaniards. It's delight for Kilian Drumont.
I mean, what drama to end the race there. That penalty, you can argue whether you think it was warranted or not, but the stewards thought that it affected the outcome of the race. And Gallo there, I say a bit of relief for him, because he would have been absolutely swamped, I think. But P2 for him. But this man, Kilian Drumont, strong all race, good on fuel, in the right place at the right time, and takes the win here at Tokyo. Amazing result for him. And Moreno as well, back on the podium for the first time, I should say, of course, after his incident at Milan, at Monza. So he'll be very happy with that.
Kilian Drumont will now lead the Nations Cup point standings after all is said and done, following that emphatic victory. Let's have a look at some highlights though from that race. So Serrano versus Drumont it was in the opening stages of it. We saw Gallo, Cockburn all in the mix at the sharp end of it. Miyazono kept a watching brief on proceedings as Gallo went through on Drumont. Miyazono also picking his pocket there as well. Guy Barbara ended up in the wall at one stage in the race. Coming down into the final stages of it though, it was Gallo versus Serrano in the battle for the victory. Gallo just shut the door here on Jose Serrano for a brief moment, trying to hold on in vain on that hard compound of tyre. And this is where the race really was defined. Through into there was a bit of contact between Gallo and Serrano. Serrano was deemed as the aggressor as Drumont walked through on the pair of them. Serrano was then handed a 1 second penalty on the final lap of the race, which ultimately not only cost him the win, but also a podium as well as the championship lead. Drumont then went on to take a maximum 6 points here and will lead as we head going into Singapore in the Nations Cup. How dramatic do you want it in the GT World Series?
It's what we do here, mate. It's what we do. Never short of drama here. And you have to think it is unfortunate for Serrano. It's a real shame. Definitely not intentional for him, but the rules are rules, and unfortunately Serrano broke them. The result was him finishing 5th instead of 1st. So here's a reminder of your results. Kilian Drumont winning from Valerio Gallo 2nd and Moreno in 3rd. Cockburn, strong result for him 4th. Serrano down to 5th. And Paul Urra taking the last point here at Tokyo.
Well, points being prizes there for Paul Urra. Very, very important for him to get them, despite the fact that he, of course, was leading the standings going into this weekend. Just 1 point on the board does mean that he will relinquish that top spot. Takuma Miyazono, who was 3rd in the standings, failed to score here this afternoon as well. An alternative strategy just didn't pay off for him.
So I am here with the winner of round 2, Kilian Drumont. Kilian, I mean, Oh my goodness! Right. Well, first of all, congratulations. It's brilliant. Well done. Did you think once Serrano got ahead of you after kind of like that last pit, I thought, oh, he's just gonna sit there anyway, and then he got the penalty, and then it was just right for the taking. What were you thinking at that moment?
Yeah, all of the race was pretty calm, just managing the tires and the fuel. But the last one, like always, I mean, still chaotic or maybe dramatic. But yeah, on the 6th of stint, I go ahead with Rossi because I have much fuel than him. So yeah, he come back because I was a bit slow. Compared to the hard tires, it's a bit different the grip, so I need to like 2-3 laps for gaining pace. But then yeah, he's going to catch Valerio with the hards, and I don't know what's happening, but for me, in my view, I saw the contact with Vale. I touched a bit Rossi, and Rossi touch a bit Valerio. But for me, it's not decided to 1 second penalty. And even that, we don't have a battle for the last lap. So that's a bit, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty happy to win, but the end was a bit sad.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of crazy, that last final one, right? It was quite confusing. I don't even know if you know what happened behind you. Do you have any idea what went on after the overtake? Then obviously like Gallo came and Moreno came, and then obviously Serrano was pushed back. But then I think that's the first time I've seen like a legit wobble from Serrano. Like that's kind of mad. That was you, obviously, part of you doing that to him.
Yeah, I was surprised to take penalty. I was like, okay. I saw like Valerio was on hard, so he catch me. So yeah, I was a bit calm for the end of the race, but I just focused for the last lap and then celebrate.
That's a good way of looking at it. But also, I don't think I can remember. I'm trying to remember the last time someone did like pole for like qualifiers, then sprint, and then grand final all in a row. When was the last time that happened? I can't think of it. Normally, it's like someone gets 2 and then grand final no. So
maybe Rossi. Maybe Rossi. I don't know, because he win everything last year, so maybe him. Oh, in the Grand Finals, he win the 3 races and then the Grand Finals on the Fukuoka. So.
You know what, I can't remember. Who remembers? There's too many races. But anyway, huge congratulations. Let's give it up for our Round 2 Nations Cup winner, Kylian Dumont. I think it's time. They worked very, very hard to reward them with our podium ceremony.
Well, we will do that, Jules, but not before we look at the point standings, because now it is a Frenchman on top. Kylian Dumont leads in the Nations Cup from Jose Serrano and Pol Urra, who are tied for 2nd place. Gallo bumps himself up into 3rd in the standings after starting this weekend down in 9th place. Sam Moreno up into P5 ahead of Ryota Kokubun there. Just 4 drivers yet to score in 2026, Jimmy. An amazing job from Kylian Dumont in particular.
Yeah, it's really made this championship very interesting now with the round 3 and the World Finals still to come, of course. A reminder, you can vote for your Dunlop Driver of the Day. Dumont, Gallo, Moreno? I don't know. I'm not quite sure who I'd pick.
Well, it's a good thing you don't have to. But don't forget to vote for your Dunlop Driver of the Day. Let us know which one you think did the best job there. I have to say, for Gallo, very lucky to have held on to that 2nd place finish, but nonetheless, a really commanding drive from him. And for Sam Moreno as well, his first ever podium in the Nations Cup after the disappointment from Milan, to bounce back for him. It makes it 3 different nationalities on the rostrum here in Tokyo as well. Well, the podium music is playing, which must mean only one thing. It is time then for celebrations to begin on the ground here in Japan as we await our top 3 finishers making their way to the rostrum. Sheer delight for the drivers here in Tokyo, and a great way for action to continue. There is Kylian Dumont, your race winner, making his way onto the top step. For the first time in 2026, that's his 9th Gran Turismo World Series event win in his 45th start. For Valerio Gallo, P2, I think he'll be pretty pleased with that, all things considered. Breathing a sigh of relief once it all worked out at the checker flag. And for Samuel Moreno as well, the first podium in a grand final for the Spaniard. Now time for the trophies to be presented, but not before the national anthem of our winning driver. Vive la France, as we say in Tokyo. A great job from Kylian Drumont to take his first win of 2026. Joined on the podium by Valerio Gallo and Samuel Moreno. What a great round two we've had here in Japan. Now time for the trophies to be presented. Ryo Shitaru from the Mazda Motor Corporation will award the third place trophy. Now, of course, we'll go to Samuel Moreno. Great job from the young Spaniard. His first year of competition in the GT World Series, just 18 years of age. He's got to be delighted with that one. As Shitaru-san congratulating the top three finishers. Second place trophy awarded by Koji Komaje, the Toyota Motor Corporation. Presents the second place award to Valerio Gallo, really managing to turn those fortunes around after the difficulties in Milan back in May. It's P2 for the Italian here in Tokyo for round two of the GT World Series. But for one man in particular, it is delight for Drumont. King Kylian rises once again. Gran Turismo Series producer Kazunori Yamauchi will present the winner's trophy to the Frenchman as he makes his way onto the stage here at the Polyphony Digital headquarters in Japan. And for the first time in 2026, he can hold the winner's trophy aloft. Kylian Drumont takes the win and also leads in the point standings as well going into Singapore. Jimmy, I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, the X2019 always providing close and fun racing in the GT World Series. I think that'll mean a lot, of course, to Gallo. I think it's his first podium for quite a while for him after a bit of a drought. And Moreno, of course, his first podium at all in a Gran Turismo World Series event. So some very happy faces down there as well. And, of course, sets the stage nicely for Singapore a bit later on this year.
And that is the next time we will be resuming action for the GT World Series in 2026. The first weekend of October, we head to Singapore. Thank you so much for joining us in the commentary box this weekend in Tokyo. From Jimmy Broadbent and from myself, Tom Brooks, take care. And we'll hand down to Jules to say goodbye.
Right, guys, that was spicy racing. Huge congratulations to all of our drivers today. Everyone really has put their heart and soul into be the best they can be. And don't forget, we will see you also on the 3rd of October in Singapore. We're going to find out if Serrano's going to take this line down or is he going to push back and try and steal it back from Dumont. We will see you next time. It's goodbye from Tokyo!
PlayStation